I grew up in Ethiopia, and it was a war-torn country at that point. It still is, but it was pretty bad then. And I think I asked Jesus into my heart every night for a very long time, because I was so afraid that I didn't mean it and that I was going to end up in eternal conscious torment. And that was what was preached to us. That's the entire mission that my parents had as missionaries, as evangelical missionaries. Their goal was to keep people out of hell. Like, so my entire family system, my parents, work structure, everything was this final goal. In fact, my grandparents were also missionaries in Africa. And so this generational pull towards hell, keeping people out of it. And the fear that I wasn't going, that I wasn't good enough, I hadn't said the magic prayer enough, really leveled me in many ways. I didn't really know that it was leveling me, to be honest, until I was much older, when I sort of had a nervous breakdown and I had panic attacks. And I think that's very common when you reach back and you look at your child and I'm thinking, well, I never felt safe. I didn't feel like there was a God who was safe, because if I didn't say the magic prayer, he was going to send me to eternal conscious torment. Plus, being a missionary kid, I didn't really live with my parents. I was in a war-torn country, so there was nowhere safe. So it makes a lot of sense. And so if you don't have something like, grounding you and holding you, you are just going to lean into fear. I mean, after the normal teenage ecology thing, I was on a mission to keep everybody out of hell. And then I became a parent. That was my number one thing. I didn't really care what I had to do to get my children to go to heaven. I didn't care if I made them afraid. I just thought, well, it is absolutely scary. And so this is my mission, is to keep them out of hell. That was the only thing I wanted to do. That was what I did with my friends, everybody. I had this agenda to keep everyone out of hell. And I look back now, how much of that was absolutely fear-driven, absolutely 100% fear-driven. As I've been sort of deconstructing hell, I like to say that, really thinking through it, almost every religion has a way to stay out of hell. They kind of have a version of hell, many, and there's some kind of formula to stay out of it. And that's very black and white. That's very immature thinking. Like, there's this really scary place, and we have the answer. We have the answer to keep you out of it. This idea of here's the problem and here's the solution. And it starts with fear. It doesn't really start with love. It starts with just scary thoughts. God is against you. You're bad. He doesn't, you have to sort of appease him. We tend to either be pushed by fear or led by love. And being pushed by fear is just a lot easier. Like I said, it just only requires black and white thinking. And when it really comes to hell or this eternal conscious torment, I think that there's a whole bunch of things about fear of death, right? Fear of separation from those we love. When people use that card, when parents, evangelists, whoever use that card, oh, don't you want to be with grandma? Don't you want to be with mommy? Who just died, which happened actually to my niece. She was 9 when her mom died, and she is from a tradition that believes in election. And she was not sure. She came to me crying in the night. I'm not sure if I'm elect, will I ever see my mommy again? So that fear of separation, the fear of punishment, right? All of these things, the fear of endless pain and suffering, all rooted in this like place of fear. And then you got to couple that with, well, what do we do about our fear? We do an unhealthy thing. We try to control it. So we come up with formulas to keep ourselves out of this place. And everyone does it. Everybody, every religion does it to keep ourselves from suffering, punishment, being separated, abandonment, all those kind of core issues that do create all kinds of harm. I say this is why so many people are in therapy. That was what caused me to evangelize everybody. so afraid. I grabbed my friend off the sidewalk. Like he was stepping off the sidewalk and I yanked him back because he hadn't said the prayer. I was out of my mind. And he looked at me like, what are you doing? And I said, I've told you about Jesus so much and you're still not saying the prayer. And now you're going to step out into traffic and you're going to die and go to hell forever. I mean, so much inside of me pushed. Almost every decision I made, especially in my young parenting, was around that. And it really didn't matter that I was causing lots of fear as long as I kept them out of hell. It's a lot easier to have a magic formula, be certain, live in a place of certainty. Here it is. Here's the problem. Here's the solution. When it gets to love, being led by love, maybe that opens you up to a lot of possibilities. And then you're opened up to curiosity and wonder and mystery. And those are what I have found really are what have healed my heart. And then I can operate from a place of having no agenda, not trying to control, having no agenda for those I love, which I do think is actual love. I think it's love with no strings attached, right? So then I can turn to wonder and curiosity, get to know people, get to know my family, my kids. I can make decisions from what's best for them. I can be present. I can, I don't have to have like this weird agenda in my back pocket. And people can tell when you have a little agenda. They can tell, they know that you're not just loving them with no strings attached. So if you're going from a place of love, it provides for people to have, freedom to be completely themselves. But the other really cool thing that happens, I think, when you put yourself in a posture of curiosity as a parent, when love opens you up to that and you don't have this certainty and this fear, is that you can put yourself in a position of being both a learner and a teacher. Perhaps they're going to show us something that we never thought of before. I think it was one of my kids that was like, hell, that's ridiculous. Like, you say God is love, and like, why would he send people to that? Why would he do that? That doesn't sound like a loving thing. Would you do that, Mom? And there were those little things along the way that I was like, oh yeah, he has a point. So I love that idea of, being led by love there. And then I also think, like I was saying about being present, letting go of my children's eternal destiny, like that was all my responsibility. It helped me to trust the process of choosing like love in the here and now, in the day to day, in the moment by moment, because I didn't have this overarching anxiety that was sort of ruling my life that was like a stranglehold around my neck. And and I think like that idea of, wow, that's way after, that's way later. And I was so distracted from what was going on with them currently. So that is, I would say, you just be with your kids. I kind of feel like, and I'm a big Jesus person still, it's kind of like he came to be with us. God sent himself to be with us and get to know us and live with us and move with us and kind of be one of us. And that's sort of how I view it now. And I have older kids at this point, but what a freedom it has been. What a huge freedom. It's changed our relationship with them. They are much more open about their struggles. I'm much more open about my struggles because the agenda is just love.